Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. This is myself, and
Nancy.
again, as we as we promised, the next few weeks, Nancy and I are going to be jamming out and riffing on certain topics. And as you can see in the obviously description provided, we're going to be riffing on our thoughts, feelings, and opinions on masterminds, what it actually means, our own personal experience from being in multiple masterminds ourselves, some ranging in the 45,000 plus range per year. Others were in the $8,000 to $12,000 a year. Some things that we liked and some things that we didn't like, and how that all culminated into us creating our own mastermind, which is a hybrid mastermind, build out program and one-on-one coaching called Expert Authority. Now, before we start riffing on this, again, we are 1 week away. That's it, right? 7 days away. So 8 p.m. a week from tonight, April 24th, we begin our first of only 2 LinkedIn workshops this year. This is one of our favorites that people love. It's the Amateur to Expert 5-day LinkedIn workshop, where in 5 days, we teach you how to go from a novice on LinkedIn to exactly what you need to be doing to grow your business on the platform. If you would like to register, there's going to be a link in the description of this episode for you to do so. It is Monday through Thursday, the 24th to the 27th. That's 8 to 9 p.m. EDT. Friday the 28th, it is from 5 to 6 p.m. EDT. And our bonus day, which is day 6, is Saturday, April 29th, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. EDT. So let's dive in. Obviously, Nance, we've been, in some way, shape, or form, we've been involved in networking groups, but more recently in the last 4+ years, high-level masterminds. And it becomes I don't want to say a point of contention, but it's something that we're struggling with because we're reaching out to people we know, like, which ones do you love? Which ones do you like? What did you take away? And that's obviously why we created our own. But we also want to be transparent and share with all of you, without naming names or obviously talking about which specific masterminds these are, what we loved about the ones that we joined and what were the things that we didn't like. Now, let's start with, we want to end on a positive note. So let's get the things that we didn't like out of the way. So Nance, let me turn over to you and let's dive into what we felt were some negatives when it comes to the masterminds that we've joined over the years.
Yeah. So, and I just want to put a little disclaimer, before we even go through this is, one, we are protecting, obviously we don't want to, shout people out and not give them a chance to, say something. And of course, we actually gave this feedback back to, the particular mastermind that we're referring to. We met with their team and actually really, shared some of those takeaways, the good, the bad, the ugly. But I think it's important to note as well that, as someone who invested in a mastermind, we have our own mastermind. So, we really want to lean into the fact that a lot of times you really make the experience what it is at the end of the day, right? If you're not taking advantage of all the things, that the mastermind offers, if you're not showing up for all the scheduled events and you're not participating and you're not, doing a lot of the networking and the different events that are there, you're really probably missing out on things. Okay. So I just want to add that disclaimer that yes, we have a responsibility when we sign up for these programs, certain things shouldn't just be handed to us on a platter. So going back to what Scott said, right, what specifically were the things that really kind of rubbed us the wrong way or made this experience less than beneficial? Number one, I will say in this particular mastermind, so the reason why Scott actually joined, so we didn't join together, and that's one of the pet peeves. I'll get to that point in just a second. But I was actually recovering from surgery from my cancer. I was, not 100%, meaning I was not going to get up and travel, right? With COVID and everything going on, we just knew we weren't going to attend to anything that was in person. So this particular mastermind, I was super excited about because this person I had been following, right? I had listened to their podcast. They were really close knit with a lot of the big social media marketers out there. I just felt like, oh my gosh, this is it. And the thing that this person really advertised and talks about in his content is all about being genuine and connection and having that personalized touch and getting to know your people and delivering that wow experience. And it just really got me so excited because I'm like, oh my goodness, we're getting ready to create a lot of different residual income streams in our business. And I just thought this was going to be the mastermind to really help us level up in that category. So the biggest pet peeves and, the first thing on the list was there was no sales page for the actual mastermind. In fact, I heard about the mastermind on a podcast episode, and it was very unclear what the deliverables were, right? What this mastermind actually consisted of. And even before I let Scott kind of chime in there is, if anyone is listening and you've never heard of what a mastermind is, or you've never invested in a mastermind, pretty much big picture here in a nutshell, a mastermind is a group of individuals, right, who come together and they share ideas, insights, strategies for growth. Some have expert trainings and, can help you stay accountable and focused and all those good things, right? It's usually a tribe of people who comes together and really helps you to up level all those things. So stating that, right, again, first warning sign was there was no sales page. It was very unclear on the deliverables and what was included in this mastermind. And then I'll go through the next ones after you kind of add your thoughts.
And looking back, that was kind of weird to me, but we spoke to the individual personally, right? So it kind of made things feel okay.
Yeah.
But the fact, and looking back on this, if there's no sales page that describes what it is you're actually investing in, and again, not to jump too far ahead, but what I ended up experiencing is it was a glorified do-it-yourself
Facebook group.
course. It was basically a do-it-yourself course that had a once a month Q&A Zoom. And that was really it. So, there was a standalone DIY course that is known that everyone purchases. And it was like maybe 80% less of an investment for this.
Just buying the course by itself.
Just buying the course by itself. And then, the up-leveled part of a mastermind was, you get a once a month Q&A Zoom, Facebook group where there was no activity. And there, you did have the option to meet in person once. And there were about 100 people in this, and only about 13 or 14 ended up going in person ish. But that was like, it was extra cost on top. And for me, there was not enough value for me to actually, I didn't see enough value leading up to the in-person where I'm like, you know what? I want to peel myself away from Nancy and our business and our company for 3 days to do this. I'm like, no, I'm like I would be losing more money. So I felt slighted. And I said this when I typically, for me, Nancy knows I'm very supportive of other business owners. And I kind of sometimes will put my tail between my legs and just not say anything. And Nancy's like, no, you got to speak up. If this person's going to have an offboarding call with you, you get on there and you tell them how you feel. And, I did get validation from the person and what I expressed, but it still didn't make me feel better about the investment that I lost. And this was also a lesson for us that sometimes you will make bad investments, and you have to chalk it up as a learning lesson, but also you learn from those negative experiences what you can do more positively for the network that you're creating and you're crafting.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, some other things in that particular program, which, really to Scott's point, we kind of took away, we went, okay, we've got to make our mastermind like even better because we need to make sure to include certain things. And, the community was really bad, right? There was no collaboration, no networking. And in fact, we've been part of masterminds that were fantastic, right? We even mentioned before we were in Chris Harder's, high level and, the fast foundations, and they were excellent. And there was lots of connections and networking and amazingness happened. And this one was like crickets.
Yeah, it was tons of collaboration, and where I was doing guest trainings, they were doing guest trainings.
Not
There
in
were
this one, in
no,
the
no,
other
no,
one.
not
Yeah.
in this one. So let me give you an example. In this one that Nancy and I are talking about, Nancy credits me for squeezing as much juice as I can out of every situation. And she says, don't sell, don't pitch, just connect with these people. And I'm like, you're right, I'm going to. In the year that I was in there, I made multiple posts in this private Facebook group asking for podcast guests, where I didn't even ask for a podcast swap. I said, I would love to feature you on my podcast. You can tell my audience all about what you're doing for business. I want to give you a platform, share your expertise, and that is it. And there were 100 people in this quote unquote mastermind. Do you know how many people ended up guesting on my podcast? One.
It's crazy.
One person.
Yeah.
And I really couldn't help them all that much because they had a German-based business. So their demographic was in Germany, not even in her whole sales page is in German.
Yeah.
And she has an amazing business, but I followed through with what I said I would do, which was have a guest spot. No one reached out. And you want to talk about supporting each other. That's what a mastermind is. A mastermind is people of the same mindset, like mindset, coming together, finding out about one another and how you can improve each other's businesses by networking and providing opportunities for one another. And there was none of that. I maybe spoke to 2 other people in the group in total. And I'm like, and there was no way for me to predict what this was, but I will tell you, like, again, looking back, one of the things that Nancy said is that we couldn't join as a couple for an online program. I mean, but here's the thing. I could share the passwords with Nancy for her to log into the portal. There was nothing stopping me from doing that.
Well, here's the thing that exactly. And I bring this back up again. And here's the thing. We know, right? If people have masterminds, there's additional expenses, right? That go into certain things. I mean, I know we send out, welcome gifts and things like that. To multiple people. But, that was one thing that when we created our mastermind, we really were adamant about letting people, if we have a husband and wife team or, you have a significant other and you want to join together, if you're running the business together, that makes no sense to me. If you're going to be strategizing and you're working on the same goals and you just happen to be, there's 2 of you, that should be, it should not be multiple, obviously, enrollments. I think it should be joining as a couple.
Well,
And so,
let me say this. So
yeah.
I totally understand why some masterminds will say, you pay in full and your significant other can join, but they have to pay half. Like for a high level mastermind where, mind you, there are maybe 3 in-person meetups where you're actually masterminding in person for 2 or 3 days, where there's guest speakers, there's dinners that you're taken out to, there's excursions and
Yeah,
experiences.
that makes sense.
That makes sense. But with an online
Virtual.
mastermind where the meetup was optional, like you had you plane ticket, hotel, like everything was optional. It was not included. You didn't have to go. It didn't change the price of the investment. And again, when we spoke about this with the person that was onboarding us, which again, that's a whole other
Yeah.
like
It was
can of
terrible.
worms. That was a terrible onboarding experience.
Yeah.
But I got two answers. Remember, like initially I asked, what if I can bring you on with me? And they did give us a very reasonable quote as far as bringing you on. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then when I followed back up to reiterate what was said, that price that was quoted 10x. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm like, you told me it was going to be X, Y, and Z. And now you're telling me it's 10x X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I had a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
And I made it a mission. Like at that, I was already pissed off as it was
Yeah.
that I made this investment. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to prove myself wrong. And I am going to squeeze as much juice as I can out of this. I'm going to rock this thing. I'm going to make this thing better than I ever expected. And it was literally a flat tire the entire time. And
Ugh.
I don't like, is right. I never, Nancy, you know me. I don't quit. I do not give up on things.
No.
If I'm putting my money behind something, I don't just let it fall to the wayside. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to go near this thing after about 4 months.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, again, like it made sense for you to join it, and I was here I am like all pumped up because I've been following this person. I'm like so excited. And I'm like, we get to. And after hearing, the Q&A was awful, like one person talked the whole time and no, other questions were answered and things like that. And as I kept hearing this feedback, it was just like, the wind kept coming out. And, again, it made more sense for Scott to join it because, again, my health situation, I wasn't going to be traveling. And, I really wanted him to really throw as much networking and, obviously his skills into it as possible. And it was so icky feeling because again, we actually decided after this one, we're not ever joining anything separately. Like it's like, we're going to join everything together because again, we both need the information. We're growing the same business. So it just doesn't make sense. So again, the fact that we couldn't join as a couple, and I probably said it wrong earlier, like, look, I get it. Like there's additional expenses here and there, but when you're running a business together and it's a virtual mastermind, let's talk about that. You know what I mean?
Well,
I would totally.
where's the additional cost in a virtual mastermind? None. It doesn't cost any money to give two people access to an online portal.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost any additional money to add an additional email to let people know about, this is when we're having, like, we have couples join all the time and we are more than happy to extend the significant other, if they're running the business together, to join. I'm not going to make people pay twice for one thing. Again, if it's an in-person experience, and there are masterminds out there, that's why ours is different. Like we meet, virtually every single week with our members. We meet every single Thursday, 52 straight weeks. We meet with everyone quarterly, one-on-one. So there is one-on-one and there's group. We have bonus calls. It's all virtual. So we're not going to charge someone extra for attending
The same
Zooms.
business.
There's no like, and not to like, listen, Nancy and I spend a few $100s on each person. We send a care package, right? And we spend money on each person, but that also comes from the money that they've actually invested in our program. We actually reinvest that back in them and send them a nice little care package. And we're not going to charge someone extra. We end up sending the care package to the same house. I mean, it's not any extra money, but to our point, if it's an experience type mastermind that like the ones that we were a part of, where you're meeting somewhere in the United States, you're going out to, nice dinners, there's actually a cost for that person that's running the mastermind to put it on. That makes sense. It makes sense. Like if it's another seat that needs to be filled in person, right? Because Nancy, just let me finish this.
I'm like, you made your point, but
No. I just want people to understand the difference between a virtual mastermind and an in-person mastermind. You have to understand, if Nancy and I were doing our mastermind in person, we would have to be charging 10 times more than what we're charging right now. For the plain and simple fact that if we were doing everything online, but we added in an in-person component where our members would come and spend 2 or 3 days from us, again, we would have to find a hotel space, right? We would have to rent a room for 3 days. If we provided lunch or drinks, that would be another thing. If we took all of our mastermind members out to dinner, that's another cost. So we want people to understand we sympathize and understand that when you're running that kind of mastermind, yes, the other person, the spouse, should be paying something because there is a cost that's accrued for each individual person. Almost like going to a wedding, right? It costs something per plate. It's an in-person thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. But like to say that, okay, Scott is going to be in the mastermind, so I've got to go hide here in the other room and try to listen in. Like, I mean, let's be honest, right? And then have access to the same goddamn course,
Yeah.
it's frustrating. So, again, very annoying when our business is legit the same. So couldn't join it as a couple. That's the last one. Now, let's do on the flip side. Let's share actually some of the really big takeaways and some of the awesome things that we have experienced in masterminds, right? The big thing, community, the first one that you ever joined, you networked the heck out of that.
Oh,
So not only did that lead to an amazing network of people and obviously people we still connect with and partner with, but it also led to sales, people looking for what it is that we had, and we just had something of value that they really needed and literally paid for itself, 10 times over in the long run, right? With a lot of the masterminds.
that mastermind, 100%, Nancy, was the springboard that got us to where we are right now. Because
Yes.
I would say there were two masterminds that helped us, right? One that we did a couple of years ago during the pandemic,
Yep.
and this one that I did about 4.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
that's when you said to me, listen, you have to go all in with your brand. Like you got to network with some higher network people, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
did. And to your point, I squeezed the juice. And here's the bad thing about that. Like there were so many good things, but because it was such a positive experience, Nance, like I compare every mastermind to that one now, right? Because
Yeah.
because think about it. Think
Yeah.
about the opportunities that came to both of us, right? There were so many great opportunities that stemmed from all of those connections that we made in that mastermind, right?
Yep.
So we're like, oh, I mean, this is how all masterminds
The
must
bar.
be,
Yeah, it
right?
was set
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
high.
the bar was set
Yeah.
so high that, again, now we're not nitpicking here. We're now just being honest because we got to experience the best of the best.
Well, not
And
necessarily though. Like there's
well,
pluses and minuses of every. I
you're
mean,
right.
there were
You're right.
things you took away from that one that you were like, no, man, I had to hustle hard, to actually
I
make the
did.
connections and, get people to actually meet with me. So I'll cancel that. Like it was
Okay.
not a perfect experience. And again, we being on the other side of it, making investments, and it's important to be clear. Like I think everybody out there, you're gonna find pluses and you're gonna find minuses and everything. But bringing it back to even again, what we have created, it has been really good to go through those experiences, the good and the bad, because it's really helped us really get clear on the program that we always wish that we had, and creating a program that really gives people value. And I will tell you, a few of the biggest things that I think we do, that we really wish, right, we had throughout the different programs, we have inserted in our business, and we talked about on one of our other podcasts how the three core focuses, right, the clarity, accountability, and visibility, right, getting yourself out there, were three things that we really wanted to have as foundations. And in everything that we do, we are so transparent and real. And we love jumping on these one-on-one calls with people and doing their strategies with them. So they actually have tangible, actionable items, right? You actually have a marketing plan in place. You've got clarity around your business and your offer. And then you're also doing things to put you out there as the expert. So, again, that's why we created our program. Is our program perfect? No.
No.
Every single year. In fact, one of my favorite things to do, in fact, it was the scariest thing to do when I first started. We first started this over 3 years ago, is I put a feedback form out there, right? And, having built that program for the first time, and it was a blank slate, right? There was nothing in the training portal, right? We had nothing in there and we were kind of building it as we went. And now, there's a meaty training portal. There's lots of things that we do. We've added a book club and a mindset call on Mondays. And, obviously we have our rotating calls, but every time we bring a program to an end, we ask for feedback. Please share your biggest wins, your takeaways. What would you like to see better? And we take those things and we improve every year because that's important.
Well, what I'll say to you, that was the scariest thing for me, because sometimes, you know, we get notifications if someone has submitted a response to the feedback form, and I'm always like, oh shit, like what,
I
like,
don't think that anymore. I'm
no, no,
so
no, no.
confident.
I
Yeah, like, yeah,
initially,
yeah.
when we did it, and here's why, we love not only the mastermind that we run, but we love the people in our community. I mean, we love them to death, because they tell us exactly what they want. And that's why this mastermind that we have is so powerful, because we build everything. Obviously, there's a core foundation of what we teach in our mastermind, but all of the things around that nucleus is based off of what the community wants. So to Nancy's point, a couple of years ago, one of our mastermind members, Sarah, said, listen, it would be great if we could start a book club, and maybe we can all read the same book each month, and we can have an end of month discussion of what we liked. And we're like, ooh, that's great. So now we do that. And we even had Bob Berg, who wrote The Go Giver. He guested on our call. Cody Schuin.
Everyday
I mean, we
Legacy.
had
Yeah.
Steve Farber. Like, we've had some top-notch best-selling authors actually, join our call to talk about their book.
You even got Entrepreneurs on Fire. You did a
Oh,
podcast
John Lee
interview. Yeah,
Dumas.
John Lee
Yeah.
Dumas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got John Lee Dumas on my podcast, and that's a book, The Common Path to Uncommon Success. We recommend it to everyone. We actually
Yeah.
gift that to every single mastermind member. So the other thing was, people were wanting more of like mindset stuff. So as I aforementioned, we meet with our group every single week at the same time for 52 weeks. But one of our other members, Sam, said, you know what, it would be really great if we can like have an optional call on Mondays where people can just hop on if they want. And you and Nancy can like just do some sort of mindset training to like get us like fired up for the week. And we're like, ooh, that's great. So it's
Great
like,
for us too.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's an optional call. And we have 3 different groups. So, sometimes we have like 5 people on there. Sometimes we have 25 people on there. It just really depends where people are. But I can tell you, every single time we hop on there on a Monday, at least one person reaches out to us and said, your message spoke to me today.
Yeah.
And again, most recently, one of our mastermind members, there was 2 things. Number one, they said, would it be possible for us to pre-submit questions? Because we do a training every other week and a Q&A on the weeks in between. And one of our mastermind members suggested, hey, can you send out a form where we can pre-submit questions? And we're like, ooh, that's great as well, because
Ooh. Yeah.
we don't have to like, what are your questions today? And it's just crickets. Like, now we actually have questions to be answered, which helps kind of other people start to think of things they want to ask. And the last thing was, since we do our meetings on Zoom, someone else suggested, hey, can we do breakout rooms on,
Network more with each
yeah,
other.
maybe once a month, and we can network with each other and kind of talk through things and kind of get to know each other better. And we said, well, listen, we love that, because we want you guys to form a connection and a community. And again, that's why we love this so much, because we're listening.
Yeah.
We're listening to our people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, again, at this point, I actually look forward to that feedback so much, because we want our program to be amazing, and again, we want to really have people walk away and just feel so, positive about it and know that they had value. And again, it's going from like when we first started this, even my confidence, to now where we're at, and we just know what we deliver. It's, I feel very proud of, everything that we put together. And, we have our copywriter was saying the other day, she's actually a part of sometimes with our Q&A, because if people have copy questions now, we've got her available to answer some questions to help with clarity and things like that. And she was saying, she was part of our creating a profitable offer training. And I went through and I said, look, even if you guys already have an offer, we're going to squeeze the juices out of this and make sure that you are so clear. And I went through and did a little training, even using ChatGPT, and we did different marketing strategy that some of the top companies, right? People are paying like tens of thousands of dollars to go through some of this strategy. And I literally create a personalized form for every single member, right? Where you get to fill that out and you get to go through and really hash out your idea and make sure that you are so crystal clear on how you are, marketing, who your audience is, all that great stuff. And by the end of the training, she was like, Nancy, I was a part of a super high level, like corporate version of this. And it was like X amount of money. She was like, it was ridiculous and was like over 8 weeks. And she goes, you literally did the most concentrated, most awesome, amazing training that these people will walk away with so much value. So again, getting that kind of feedback and, being able to do what we do. And, at this point, being in, the entrepreneur world this long, getting to see all the different things that we have. It's just been amazing to really take the best, and move that forward and then continue to, obviously improve off of things that we've built. It's really, I'm grateful, to be able to do that.
Well, the last thing I'll say is we joined a mastermind during the pandemic, which again, there were pluses and minuses from that. And there were significant minuses that we found, but there were also some instrumental pluses that we know for a fact that we would not be where we are if it wasn't for what we learned. And it was the product build out. It was the skills to launch a product that you're creating. And now,
and we joined together, right?
Yeah. We
one.
joined together. And
which was
that,
so nice. Yeah.
And again, it was all online. It was a very, very high priced online, which
it was actually what made us start our own mastermind. In fact, we came in separately with both of our businesses and we were like, hey, I'm really good at this. And Scott's like, hey, I'm really good at this. And they were like, you guys, if you just do this and form together, you will be unstoppable and you'll have this amazing program. And that's what started everything. So, again, looking at the craziness, because that actual mastermind was going through a lot of structural changes and team changes. And 1 minute we had an accountability advisor, 1 minute we didn't, like it was bobs and weaves and ups and downs left and right. But what we walked away with after all of that, invaluable.
Gold. And I will say is like, I give that person so much credit because they were in the weeds going through it. Like we were part of an amazing community because we did, both of us, we squeezed a lot of juice out of that, right? Yep. Great relationships that we still have today. We even there are people that I networked with in that mastermind that are in our program now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it comes full circle. So we just wanted you to know, again, Nancy and I, we continue to invest in masterminds, but there are pluses and minuses in everything that we do. And again, this is, something that we wanted to share with you because it's what we talk about all the time. So in wrapping this up, be mindful, really take the time, and if you're interested, obviously, in finding out more about our mastermind, which the doors open actually in a couple of weeks. So you can set up a call. If you just go to www.thetimeToGrow.com you always laugh when I do
www. Yeah.
thetimetogrowcom/expert authority. You can schedule a call to talk to myself and Nancy and just pick our brains, see if it's a good fit for you. Again, we talked a lot about what our program is, what our mastermind is, and how it's different from others. But we really want to make sure that you're excited to be a part of it and you're going to squeeze as much juice as you want out of it. But also, we really thrive on that feedback from you, the person that's a part of our program, because we do want to continue to make it best. Also, don't forget, our LinkedIn 5-day workshop is coming up in a week from today. It is April 24th through April 29th. There is a bonus day 6 that I just mentioned. It's on Saturday from 11 to 12 p.m. EDT. We're doing Q&A, but also we're going to show you how to use ChatGPT to help create your own personalized content on LinkedIn. So everyone, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Love and gratitude, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone.